What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the 8.1.5 Fire Mage guide. In this video, we're going to be going over Azerite Traits, we're going to be going over talents, gameplay, and just the overall feel of the spec currently, the way it is on live. Without further ado, let's get into talents. So to start out, you're going to be wanting to either take Fire Starter or Searing Touch. Right now, there isn't much gameplay that's seen by Fire Starter. So Searing Touch is more than likely going to be the talent you're going to be playing with most of the time. There obviously are instances where Fire Starter can be beneficial and can be useful, but obviously it's not as much as Searing Touch. So Searing Touch is more than likely going to be the talent you're going to be taking for the first tier. Moving into the second tier, we have Blazing Soul, Shimmer, and Blast Wave. And I'm a huge advocate for Shimmer, as you guys know. Shimmer is probably the talent you're going to be wanting to take 99% of the time, just because it's got so much utility. It allows you to keep casting and moving yourself out of places that you don't want to be. Shimmer is just an overall great utility talent, and it provides a lot more mobility than people give it credence for. So I think, generally speaking, Shimmer is going to be the talent to take, but there are instances, of course, where Blast Wave and Blazing Soul can see play. Blast Wave's knockback does provide a lot of utility in certain situations in Mythic Plus dungeons, and of course there are situations in PvP, let's say, that give Blast Wave a little bit more room to grow and to shine, but generally speaking, Shimmer is a talent you're going to be wanting to take. In the 45 tier, we have Incanter's Flow, some random spell we don't ever use, and Rune of Power. 99% of the time, once again, you're going to be wanting to take Rune of Power, but this is the kind of talent choice that you're going to have to make, and you're going to make that choice based on the fact that, you know, if you don't know the boss fight or you don't know the mechanics of a boss, and you want as much DPS uptime for this talent tier as possible, Incanter's Flows generally is the safe option. It's just a set it and forget it kind of talent, and you don't have to worry about placing anything down on the floor and staying in it. Rune of Power does have a high skill ceiling to utilize fully, and if you think that you won't be able to utilize the damage bonus from Rune of Power for its entire duration, take Incanter's Flow until you're comfortable with the mechanics and the timings of things, and then play around with Rune of Power and get comfortable with the mechanic. In the 60 tier, we have Flame On, Alexstrasza's Fury, and Phoenix Flames. Again, Flame On is going to be the talent you're going to be taking 99% of the time. There are times in AoE scenarios and high burst scenarios that Phoenix Flames does see gameplay. If you look at this talent tree right here, it tells you that Phoenix Flames does provide a DPS boost in certain situations. Now, these situations aren't as predominant as the situations we're going to be using Flame On. Flame On is generally the go-to talent for most scenarios, but consider taking Phoenix Flames in those situations where you feel like high burst damage is required. In the 75 tier, Frenetic Speed is by far the talent you're going to be taking most of the time. Of course, the other two are very situational, Ring of Frost and Ice Ward. They do provide a lot of CC in given scenarios that it's required, but generally speaking, Frenetic Speed coupled with Searing Touch is a fantastic choice. It gives you that little bit of speed boost to make yourself a little bit faster to move out of things like Sea Swells on Blockade, for instance. It does provide a lot of mobility, and it's generally what I take most of the time. In the 90 tier, we have Flame Patch, Conflag, and Living Bomb. Conflag is the go-to single target talent, obviously. It's just, again, the set it and forget it kind of thing. It just provides extra damage on your fireball casts and does give you a little bit of AoE. But in any AoE situation, Flame Patch is generally going to be the talent you're going to want to take. This is the talent that provides the most uptime in terms of damage. It does give you a lot of AoE. There are situations where Living Bomb does see gameplay. I personally, when I do Mythic Plus, love playing with Living Bomb for reaping, just to see those high burst numbers. But of course, on sustained AoE damage, Flame Patch is going to be the option you're going to want to take. In the 100 tier, we have Kindling, Pyroclasm, and Meteor. So, in my personal experience and what I've been playing with, because I don't have wildfire traits, this is the big concern right now, is whether to take Pyroclasm or Meteor. For me personally, I'm running with 3 Blaster Master traits. I've been playing with Meteor just because it synergizes very well with the playstyle of Blaster Master. But if you do have Wildfire traits, Pyroclasm is a very viable option. A lot of people are asking whether or not Pyroclasm is viable in its current state, and yes, it is definitely viable. And it definitely is a good playstyle. It's fun to play. you just need to have the traits to play it. Currently, there are kind of two running setups. There's the Blaster Master Meteor setup, and then there's the Wildfire Pyroclasm setup. Now, again, I'll put up the talent overview here. You can see that Blaster Master and Meteor synergize well in terms of damage, and then Pyroclasm and Wildfire synergize really well in terms of damage. So it's more about what you have, what the options that you have available, and just running sims and seeing which one provides the more damaging option for you. So again, both viable options. Kindling, not so much. Generally speaking, Pyroclasm and Meteor are going to be the options you're going to be wanting to make here. Moving into Azerite traits and gearing. Now, when it comes to the Blaster Master Wildfire decision, two ways you can go about it. Specifically, talking about Blaster Master, you can get pieces out of the raid that have both Treacherous Covenant and Blaster Master on them. The Helm, Shoulders, and Chest from the raid have the option of taking Blaster Master and Treacherous Covenant for the Helm and Shoulders, but the chest that drops, the Divine Fury Arraignment, has Blaster Master and Treacherous Covenant on the same tier. What does that mean? Essentially, what you'll be able to do is take 3 Treacherous Covenant traits with 2 Blaster Masters, or 3 Blaster Masters with 2 Treacherous Covenant. So those are the decisions you're going to have to make when it comes to taking Blaster Master. But for Wildfire, though, there's actually no traits from the raid, or no pieces from the raid, excuse me, that have both Wildfire and Treacherous Covenant. So the popular setup here is to run 3 Wildfire traits, with the secondary traits being Firemind. Of course, if you don't have access to that, you can go and farm dungeons or chance your luck at the Azerite piece vendor in the main city. But that's what it generally comes down to when you're looking to gear up for Azerite traits. If you're going either or which way, there's different options for you to grab that gear. In terms of trinkets, you're looking to grab, the highest DPS trinket possible for on use is the Gladiator's Badge. That's the trinket that gives you a large primary stat boost, followed by things like Wild Wings Plumage from the World Boss or the Aspire Medallion from PvP, and of course things like Balefire Branch are obviously very good as well. For equipped trinkets, you don't have many options. You have things like the Incandescent Sliver, which is the trinket from Opulence in the new raid. That's generally considered the best equipped trinket, provided that you can maintain those 10 stacks and keep your distance from players who don't have the trinket. Maintaining your distance from players is an added mechanic that trinket requires. But generally speaking, you want to grab yourself a Sliver and a really high on use trinket. So I know in the past I've kind of glossed over rotation, but in this video I really want to break it down as to how the opener looks when you're playing with Blaster Master and Meteor. I don't have any footage playing with Wildfire, but in this video I'm going to try and break down my opener that I use, and just kind of give you an understanding as to why I cast certain spells or what the order of the spells are. Because playing with Blaster Master is a little tricky, and at first, if you just picked up a Mage and you just got your Azerite traits, you're probably wondering what the most optimal way to manage those Blaster Master stacks are. So hopefully this will shed some light on that. So you'll see here that I pre-pot at 3 seconds, and I start immediately casting Fireball. So I'm casting Fireball here because it's a lot shorter cast time than casting Pyroblast, and you're actually utilizing you're trying to get as much uptiming on that potion as possible. So we precast Fireball, and as soon as the Fireball hits, I'm dropping my Rune of Power. So in this instance here, I actually get a crit for my Fireball, which is the best case scenario. You drop your Rune of Power, I immediately go to cast another Fireball, and I press Combustion and Meteor as soon as that Fireball cast finishes. And then I'm immediately going into my rotation. So I send out my Pyroblast, I hit my Fireblast, and I immediately switch to Scorch. And now while I'm scorching, I'm watching my Blaster Master counter. So as soon as it's about to fall off, you'll refresh, and you'll just keep doing that exact same rotation. Now we'll watch it back a little bit faster this time, and we'll see here that the rotation, once you get it down, is fairly smooth. So we immediately cast Combustion and Meteor, we throw out our Pyroblast, and we Fireblast immediately to get that 1 stack before Meteor drops. And then we're just switching to Scorch, Pyroblast, and refreshing our Blaster Master stacks right before they fall off. So that's the whole general idea about playing with Blaster Master, is you want to try to utilize as much of that buff as possible, and you want to refresh it just before it falls off. That way you're giving your Fireblast a chance to refresh. You're letting that cooldown come up. And that's the general opener. And then as soon as your Combustion comes off, and you're outside of Combustion, you'll drop your second Rune of Power, because you still have your Intellect Potion up. You want to try to utilize that as much as possible, and you'll just keep casting your Fireballs. The second part of this rotation here, you'll see coming up right here, is a Meteor's about to come off cooldown, so I'm immediately going to drop my Rune of Power, and then I'm going to cast my Meteor inside of that Rune of Power. So the general flow of the rotation goes, you open on the boss like I showed before, and then when your second Rune of Power comes up, your meteor should be coming off cooldown, or vice versa, and then you use your meteor inside that Rune of Power. And the general thing here is it's not worthwhile to try and maintain Blaster Master stacks outside of combustion, but generally you want to try to save your Fire Blasts, obviously to proc Pyroblasts. When you're moving, you want to try and cast Scorch. You never want to just be moving and not casting anything, especially as a mage that we have Scorch. Always try to be damaging, even when you're moving. And that's generally the opener for Blaster Master. I apologize I don't have any wildfire footage, but I'm sure there are other videos on YouTube that you guys can go and check out. And finally, we are at stats and gameplay. In terms of stats, I tell people all the time, running sims is incredibly important and incredibly useful. I personally run them after every upgrade. It gives me an accurate representation of where I'm at in terms of haste, if I need more mastery, if I need more versatility. Running sims is the best way to get an idea of where you're at, and I highly recommend doing it after every upgrade. You know, if you get a couple of Azerite pieces with new traits, use raid bots, run the top gear option. It gives you an awesome tool. It's fairly easy to use. I actually have a video on my channel that describes how to use it. Even though it's a little outdated, the concept is the exact same, and it's a really, really good habit to get into, especially when you're raiding. In terms of gameplay, now fire really hasn't changed since we first saw it launch in 8.1 or 8.0. It's relatively still fun to play. Obviously, there's a lot of abilities that we'd like to see come back. There's a lot of tweaks and just overall general ability toolkit that I'd like to see happen with the mage going forward. But as it stands right now, Fire Mage is still relatively fun to play. It's smooth. It doesn't feel too clunky. As we approach later and later into the game, into BFA, we're starting to see the rotations and just the overall gameplay of Fire Mage still feels relatively nice. Of course, like I said, it would always be nice to have some abilities come back in the future, but as it stands right now, it's not awful to play. Frost and Arcane single target are pulling ahead, but that doesn't mean fire is completely useless. It does have a lot of situational use, and generally there's boss fights in the raid that fire actually shines on, like Mythic Jaina for execute phase. It's not like fire is completely abolished and it's not terrible. It's just not as powerful and as strong and as fun as most people would like to see it. But generally speaking, I personally am enjoying playing fire. I haven't felt the need to go play a different spec. I haven't really had to for any specific reason. But speaking all in all in fire, we're in a good spot, and the only way we can go is up from here. I don't think we can go down from here. So that's the upside. But that's going to be it for the guide, guys. I hope it was informative. I hope it was useful. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them down below, and I'll be sure to answer them. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.